everyone, welcome to the October Mentor Zoom. Welcome Holly, Kelly, and Paulette. It is amazing that almost the first quarter is over. And here we are at the Mentor Zoom. I have a feeling that we're going to have more people joining us as we go along, but I want to honor everyone's time, so we're just going to get going. The attendance is in the chat. Please click into that sign in and log your attendance. As we're waiting for others to join us, I just wanted to do a check-in. And so if you could just drop into the chat, are you meeting with your mentee weekly? How's that going? And how are the four squares working out for you? I did a little dipstick on the four squares. And for the most part, everyone's got into their file and for the most part, everyone's doing those four squares, but I just wanted to check in to see how that's going for you. So if you could just let me know in the chat, that'd be great. Hi, Tina. I'm going to drop the sign in into the chat for you. Also, we're just doing a check-in. Are you meeting with your mentee weekly? And how are the four squares working out for you? So I'm just asking everyone to give me a little feedback in the chat, if you don't mind. Hi, Diana. Looks like the four squares are working great for Kelly. Thank you for that feedback. Yes, Paulette, the October ones are loaded for you in your folder as we speak. I loaded them the last couple of days. I've been loading them. So yes, every single month you'll notice that I go into your folders. I just do a little spot check to see how things are going. I organize your folder and then I load the new monthly ones for you.
Oh,
So I'm all about it.
yeah.
I don't like the scared.
I don't.
Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the Mentor Zoom. I'm dropping the sign in into the chat for you. I'm just doing a little check-in to see how the four squares are going and just double checking to see if if everyone's been able to get going with that routine of meeting with your mentee weekly.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll get signed in. Do you want me to share or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That'd be great.
We have decided that our schedules fit better if we do like pop-ins whenever we need to. And so like right now we just finished one of our pop-ins for this week because we had some email questions and just some verbiage around intervention needs and that kind of stuff. I popped up or pulled up one of our September four squares. I'm not as great about filling those out. But I shared that with my mentee, and kind of showed her what I had typed in and what we had discussed. So we're on the same page of like meeting. I feel like we know what we need to work on, what our challenges are, but getting that documented onto those four squares is a goal of mine.
That'd be great. That would be great. Just because I know I've said this before, that this particular the mentorship is funded out of 2A funds and it's federal funds. Whenever there's federal funds, they want some accountability piece. So they always want some paperwork behind. So this is, and like I said before, they don't have to be detailed. They don't have to, they don't have to get into the weeds, but just a little synopsis and really it's an opportunity to keep you organized as a mentor of different things that you've talked about over time. So, okay, perfect. Awesome. So let's move forward. I am going back to some of the initial training, so some of you might already be familiar with some of these slides, but I did want to touch base with you on the feedback triangle, and what the feedback triangle infers that if you're giving feedback to your mentee, that positive based feedback is going to be most supportive for your mentee. So you want to give that positive based feedback often. And as a mentor, you get to be their cheerleader. You get to point out all the fabulous things that you see them doing in their classroom. Learning based feedback should be provided moderately. And that concern-based feedback, at the top of the triangle, it says do least, but at the end of the day, that concern-based feedback, that's the job of your principal. So I wouldn't give that at all. So just know that that feedback triangle infers that you give positive based feedback most often. And I do like to refer back to that feedback triangle on a regular basis. Another thing that I wanted to point out to you, because many of you haven't been through the initial training, is that there is a difference between solution talk and admiring the problem, in which I love to coin that phrase, admiring the problem. So if you read through some of the differences between solution talk, might be, what would you like to achieve? In the past, can you think about when there was a time you handled this challenge successfully? Or if you want to move forward, what's one thing you could do to move forward in comparison to blaming everybody and their brother, complaining endlessly? I always like to call that admiring the problem. So being a mentor, you have the opportunity to advocate for that solution talk rather than admiring the problem. Because if you spend all your time admiring the problem, then it eats up your time that could be solving problems and having a real productive meeting. So I always like to just point that out. Okay. Next month, I'm going to be pushing out question stems, but for today we have quite a bit to talk about around report cards. So I'm going to save that for next month, excuse me. So here's the October month. Just like in September, I ask that you meet with your mentee 3 times this month and attend the mentor Zoom. We're coming to the end of the quarter, so we're going to spend a good bit of our time talking about report cards in this Zoom. So, and always at the end of the month, we review the reading. Okay, so let's go ahead and get going. Okay, so for the week of October 6th, it would be good if you could talk to your mentee about the grading procedures. Specifically, as report cards coming, the end of the quarter is coming, you want to talk about those report cards and Power Teacher Pro. Now, I did create a video which I pushed out to all the new teachers, and it was just getting into Power Teacher Pro and adding some grades and creating some assignments. I am creating a new video that's going to talk specifically to printing report cards, creating comments, and finalizing grades. So that video, I've been super busy, but I'm going to get that video done and out to new teachers tomorrow, I promise. So teachers will have that as a foundation to getting their Q1 reporting done, but it would be good if you could check in with them and see if they have any questions. So when we think about report cards, remember that on the elementary side, it's standards, reference, grading around that 4-3-2-1. And so what you're looking at in front of you is a scoring scale that will help your mentee when they think about assigning proficiency levels to their students' standards. Not only will you want to check in with your teacher to ensure they have the ability to get into PowerGrade, but you'll want to talk about the culture around grading at your site. Talk about the school culture and some things you want to shine the spotlight on is it's always good to have multiple pieces of evidence when you're assigning levels of proficiency. It could be formal assessment, it could be student work, it could be informal checks for understanding, it could be quizzes, projects, all those things. But before a teacher assigns that level of proficiency, it's always good to have those multiple pieces of evidence and grade, and the slide says grades, but when we're really talking about elementary, the elementary world, it's more about assigning levels of proficiency. So those levels of proficiency that teachers are assigning to standards should reflect learning rather than participation. So you really want to talk to them about that. Hopefully, your new to profession teachers have started thinking about systems to collect standards-based evidence. And if they have not, now's a good time to talk about some different ways they're going to collect those pieces of evidence to assign levels of proficiency. For standards-based grading, it's perfectly okay to give 2s in the first quarter. We record progress based on the parts we've taught, not based on the standard as a whole. And so that approach is reflected on the language of the scoring scale. So if you have a teacher who's already wanting to give 3s or 4s, they need to be super careful that that the student has demonstrated all the expected skills within the standard. If the teacher has only taught a portion of that standard, again, it's perfectly okay to give that 2 at this point in the school year. Now, for our secondary students, they have that ABCDF scale, and it looks a little different. Now, I did want to, I'll talk a little bit more about secondary scoring, but before we move on to that secondary scoring piece, I did want to point out that elementary resource teachers, we have many SPED teachers in our new to profession pool this year, that elementary resource teachers should be giving input on student learning, but the general education teachers give the levels of proficiency based on standards. So if you are supporting a SPED teacher, you want to make sure that they understand that. Now, when we think about SPED specific grading, let your mentee know that students with IEPs will get a progress report that will let parents know how they're progressing towards IEP goals. They'll get grades or levels of proficiency on their grade level report card as well. Report card grades should give an accurate picture of how that student is doing. If it's a 1, it's a 1, as long as the accommodations and modifications have been implemented. Now, I'll say that again, because that's super important. On the report cards or on the or on the elementary levels of proficiency, if it's a 1, it's a 1. If it's a D, it's a D, as long as all the accommodations and modifications have been implemented. That's super important. Also, a quick reminder that those accommodations and modifications are designed to level the playing field for a student with disabilities. One of the common disabilities of which accommodations and modifications level the playing field is executive functioning. So executive functioning is the ability to plan, focus attention, remember instructions, juggle multiple tasks. If a student has an IEP in this area, the disability shouldn't be held against them via a lowered grade for missing assignments or lowered grade for not following instructions on assignments, etc. So please do have, if you are supporting a SPED teacher, you want to go over some of these some of these recommendations when we're talking about grading procedures. Any questions before I move on? I've given you quite a bit of information in a short period of time, and I want to make sure that we're solid on that before we move forward. Okay. I do have a, if you are supporting a secondary teacher, and when we think about grades, oftentimes there is the culture in the secondary grading procedures to give a 0 for students who do not turn in assignments. And so I do have a video. I'm not going to play it right now, but I am going to push it out on the Foursquares. And it explains how difficult it is for a student to recover mathematically from a 0. So talk with if you are supporting a secondary teacher, please take the time to view this video and watch it with your mentee so that we can create a culture of not giving students zeros. So there's those resources, and you can find them on the 4 squares. Okay, so that's for the week of October 6th, a lot around report cards. For the week of October 13th, we're going to talk a little bit about parent conferences, iTeam, and seat work. So parent conferences look different at each individual site. At the end of the day, parent conferences are a chance for teachers to address strengths and areas for growth in each student. So I always recommend for teachers to be overly prepared rather than shooting from the hip when parent conferences come. So there are lots of different resources on the Padlet. I'm going to drop that link into the chat for you. These resources will help your mentee get organized, as well as just give some examples. But the idea behind the week of October 13th is to really talk about how parent conferences go at your site. It looks different at every site, so you want to make sure you want to set your mentee up for success when they go into the first set of conferences for the school year. And be sure to check out those resources and push them out to your mentee. So as the Q1 is coming to a close, the novelty of a new classroom might be wearing off for students. And those students who may need additional support are beginning to bubble up to the top. So you want to talk with your new teacher about how iTeam works at your site and explore the resources that are available on the website. We want to ensure that new to profession teachers have all the information so they can make informed decisions about struggling students behaviorally and academically. So remind new teachers that the RTI process is designed to keep students out of special education, and also make sure that your new special education teachers understand your building's plan to implement IRIPs, and more specifically, what the SPED teacher's role in implementing those interventions and taking data. Definitely, if you are supporting a SPED teacher, you want to talk about the IRIPs and how they're being implemented at your site. So this intervention, I don't know if you've ever gone to the intervention page that is housed by Cindy McKibben, but it has really great resources there. So I'm going to drop the employee link, the link to the intervention tab. I'm going to drop that into the chat for you if you want to go there and check it out on your own. But what I specifically think is really good information for new teachers is the RTI flowchart. So that RTI flowchart can be found on this website. Now, when you get into the website, you're probably going to have to click into the KPBSD only button. There is a KPBSD only button on there, so be sure that you do click into that. If you look at resources in the third one down, there's an RTI academic flowchart, which could really help your mentee understand what RTI and what the intervention process looks like at our site. And of course, it doesn't load. There it is. So it takes the teacher all the way through from the beginning to the end. If your new to profession teacher feels like one of their students needs to be brought up to iTeam, and oftentimes new to profession teachers have students who are already in the iTeam process. So having this flowchart helps them understand what their role is in the process and what it looks like from a mile high view. So that flowchart is really helpful to new teachers. And I also think that the teacher referral checklist is super helpful. And let me drop that. I'm going to drop both of these documents into the chat for you to have and look at on your own. There's the RTI flowchart. And then this is the teacher referral checklist. And this, if your new to profession teacher has a student who they want to bring to iTeam for behavioral or academic reasons, this referral checklist will help them be prepared when they actually come to iTeam. So there's lots of other great resources on the intervention website, but these two I think are really are going to be super helpful to your mentee. So back to that intervention website, check it out. Use the week of October 13th to bring this website to your mentees' attention so that you can set them up for success going through the iTeam process at KPBSD. Also, for the week of October 13th, I want to shine the spotlight on maximizing instructional minutes. Talk with your mentee about the benefit of having seat work when students enter the room while they're doing like administrative tasks, like taking attendance, collecting papers. Maybe a parent comes into the room and insists on having a conversation right there. You know, it's always good to have seat work for the students because having those seat work expectations for students, again, it maximizes instructional minutes as well as sets the tone for learning. So that when something comes up, the students are going to be doing something that uses their time efficiently. So what you're seeing on the screen are just some different ways to use seat work in classrooms. Now, none of these activities really connect to iReady or Into English or Savvas. None of these really connect. These are just different things that could be used for seat work. However, if your teacher or you specifically use something that connects to your curriculum, that's even better. I mean, if the seat work connects to the lesson that was delivered the day before, that's perfect too. So just having that seat work and setting the tone for learning when the students walk into the classroom is really best practice. So take this week to talk about that with your mentee. All right, and as always, the last week of the month is always to debrief the reading. So for the first days of school, the big ideas, you're looking at those in front of you on the screen. First of all, always give your mentee grace in reading these pages. Your mentee, they have a huge learning curve. If they don't have time to read the pages, it is fine because the big ideas are captured for them every single week and for you as well. So the reading moves from management procedures to instructional procedures. So instructional procedures are just as important as management procedures. And that the seat work falls into that climate for learning and those instructional routines. Again, I know I've said it again, management and engagement support each other. So having seat work, maximizing your instructional minutes, supports good classroom management, and good classroom management is supported by maximizing your instructional minutes. So, and students engaged in learning activities are less likely to cause disruptions for the most part. And the reality of the situation is that if the teacher can get 80% of the students working, then they're freed up to attend to the outliers. I mean, it's just unrealistic to think that all students are going to follow all your procedures, but the goal is to get 80% of students to get them working so that the teacher can attend to the outliers. For the critical components, the pages are still talking about those schedules. Schedules are super, super important in special ed. Not only are the schedules, but the room arrangements are crucial in special ed. Thinking about that third bullet point, again, that idea that engagement and management support each other. Well-managed classrooms allow for maximum instruction, while engaged students have fewer misbehaviors. It works in the general ed classroom just as well as it works in the special ed classroom. And just encouragement to your mentees to model and teach organizational skills for students. So just to recap, the critical components pages were all about those schedules, creating consistent, predictable structure for students is super important. And also they talked a little bit about having daily schedules, having schedules for staff in the room, as well as individual students. All right, so the last thing for the week of October 20th is to bring to your mentees' attention the new teacher website. I have loaded up the new October checklist to help them get through the month, as well as the resources. So I'm just waiting for that to load up on my computer. There's the October checklist, as well as the resources that are available this month for parent conferences, for seat work, and for student-led conferences. Okay, so I'm going to take a minute to stop here and see if anything needs clarification or if you have any questions. Also, by the way, on this website, I do have the videos that I've been creating and pushing out to the new teachers as a whole. I did a video on teacher evaluation resources. I've also done a video on getting started in PowerTeacher Pro in the elementary world as well as the secondary world. So the videos that I'm pushing out to the new teachers, they live on this website as well. So you're welcome to check those out or bring them to your mentees' attention if they didn't have a chance to watch those videos yet. Okay, for next month, the November reading is in the first days of school is pages 48 through 80, and then chapter 4 for critical components. Now, I did want to bring to your attention again, I know I've said this before, that there's 3 big ideas in the first days of school. And that first big idea is that effective teachers have good classroom management, and all the pages that have been designated for your mentees to read have been about classroom management. We're moving away from classroom management to having positive expectations for students in November. So that's what we have to look forward to. When we think about the critical components, the SPED book, they're the 3 big ideas for effective teachers in the SPED world is that those effective teachers have good classroom design based on student need. And in the critical components book, we're moving away from the design of the classroom to having appropriate teacher and student materials. So we're going to be shifting the big ideas in the reading. And the next Mentor Zoom is November 6th. So mark your calendars for the November Mentor Zoom. And now it would be good if you can get into your Google folders and make sure you have your October 4 squares. I loaded them. I know they're there, but I could have made a mistake. And if you don't have any other questions and you feel like you're ready to rock and roll for the month of October, you found your, I did not give a MobileMind code because it was really clunky with the mobile mind code. I am gonna go behind everybody and I'm gonna check everybody into Mobile Mind in the future. Y'all don't have the time to be messing with Mobile Mind. I will go in and check everybody in based on the sign-ins. But thank you for asking, Diana. So if you found your October Foursquares and you feel like you're ready to rock and roll for the month of October, feel free to just give me a thumbs up and log off and have a great month.